I would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone that's participating in the Zoom with us or watching. Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Assemblywoman Dickman. Assemblyman
Here. Sorry.
Assemblyman Frierson.
Here.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez.
Here.
Assemblywoman Howdegi.
Here.
Assemblyman Levitt.
Here.
Assemblyman Matthews.
Here.
Assemblyman MacArthur.
Here.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Here.
Assemblywoman Thomas.
Here.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Chair Miller.
Here. And with that, it sounds like everyone's here, so thank you. Just a reminder that anyone interested in participating in the hearing through testifying in support or opposition or public comment later may do so by following the link registering online on the agenda that's located on Nellis. As we go through again, we will ask everyone to make sure that as you're speaking, that you speak clearly and that you state your first and last name before speaking. Today, we have one bill that we will be hearing, and it's Assembly Bill 121, sponsored by Assemblywoman Cohen. This measure requires the Secretary of State to allow an elector with a disability to register to vote and registered voters with a disability to request, as well as military or overseas voters, to cast an absent ballot using the system of approved electronic transmission established for the process. So with that, we have a number of speakers that will be co-presenting with Assemblywoman Cohen. We have Ms. Dora Martinez, Ms. Santa Perez. We have from the Secretary of State's office, Mr. Velashin, and of course, Mr. Gloria from Clark County Registrar of Voters. So with that, whenever you are all ready to begin, we're ready for you. And with that, I will officially open the hearing on AB 121.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and Committee. For the record, I'm Leslie Cohen, representing Assembly District 29, and I'm here today to present Assembly Bill 121 for your consideration. So for some background, as we all know, voting is both a right and a responsibility. And I believe that every eligible voter should have the ability to participate in elections and make their opinions and choices known. This includes every person with a disability. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 26.8% of adults in Nevada have some type of disability. This demographic comprises a wide variety of voters, including persons with cognitive, communicative, mobility, physical, or visual impairments. Federal and state laws affirm the right to an accessible, independent, and private vote for people with disabilities. And what this bill does is extend upon those rights and codifies a method for a person with a disability to participate in the civic process. Primarily, the measure allows a person with a disability to use the effective absentee system for elections, or as it's known, EASE, to register and vote. This program was established to allow uniformed military and overseas Nevadans to register, request a ballot, and vote entirely online using a digital and electronic signature. So going through the bill, the measure before you includes lots of conforming language, but the bill itself is quite simple. Assembly Bill 121 requires the Secretary of State to allow EASE to be used by an elector with a disability to register to vote and a registered voter with a disability to apply for and cast an absent ballot. The measure requires the system of approved electronic transmission to allow such an elector or registered voter to provide his or her digital or electronic signature on any document or other material that is necessary for the elector to register to vote or for the registered voter to apply for and cast an absent ballot. And then finally, the Secretary of State is required to establish procedures to be used by local elections officials in accepting, handling, and counting absent ballots received from a registered voter with a disability using ease. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the Secretary of State's office has a program to allow disabled Nevadans to vote so they know it works well. The bill is essentially putting the program into statute so that we know the rights of disabled Nevadans will be protected. Additionally, we are considering a proposed amendment, although legal is we're still trying to figure out if it is germane, but I will of course provide it if it is germane. But just so you're aware, one area that AB 121 was brought to my attention, it relates to the deadlines for a person with a disability to register and vote, which aligns with the deadlines in the Uniform and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, or UCAVA, which is federal law, pursuant to NRS 293D.230 and NRS 293D.310. The application to register to vote and a ballot are timely if received by the 7th day before the election. With regard to voter registration, if received after the 7th day before the election, it's treated as an application to register for subsequent elections. So to make sure all voters have the same access, I propose that the UCAVA provisions in NRS be revised to align with the same day voter registration deadline provided to other Nevada voters. In addition, the UCAVA provisions related to the deadlines for the receipt of ballots should be conformed to allow for ballots to be received before the close of business on the day of the election. Again, we'll have to make sure that this is germane, but if so, I'll get you an amendment with that language in there. So moving on to our presentations, here with us today is Mark Velashan, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections of the Office of the Secretary of State. And Mr. Velashan is available to answer technical questions you may have about ease, implementation of the bill, and the proposed amendment. He's also going to take us through a demonstration of ease. Additionally, he's here to express the Secretary of State's support of the bill. And then also in a neutral position, but available to answer any questions about how the ease program works in Clark County, is Clark County Registrar of Voters, Joe Gloria. And then after they speak, we'll have testimony from two co-presenters, Santa Perez, who's the President Emeritus of People First Nevada, a member of the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, and a member of the Advisory Committee on Increasing Competitive Integrated Employment for Individuals with Disabilities, although I believe she's not representing them as part of her testimony. And then further, we also have Dora Uchel Martinez, who will testify, and maybe we'll hear from her daughter, Shirley, as well, who is a well-known Nevada Legislature testifier. Dora is an advocate and was the lead presenter in the 2019 session for AB 140, which prohibited discrimination against certain persons in certain proceedings related to children. And that was heard in judiciary. You may recall that hearing from some of the members on this committee. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Velashan and have him go through his presentation, if that's okay, Chair, and then maybe do questions at the end after we get through all of our presentations.
Perfect. On that note, good afternoon, Chair Miller and members of the committee. Mark Velashan, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections, for the record. Chapter 293D of NRS Title 24 identifies the duties of the Secretary of State and clerks as they relate to the Uniformed Military and Overseas Absentee Voters Act, or UOCAVA, as you may have heard it. It includes provisions that govern the distribution of ballots and balloting materials to covered voters by a variety of means, including through a system of approved electronic transmission that is established by the Secretary of State. The Effective Absentee System for Elections, or EASE, was first created by the Office of the Secretary of State in 2014 for Nevadan voters. It has been used by members of the military and overseas citizens with much success since then. Covered voters are able to register to vote, request a ballot, and receive elections documents. However, it does not allow voters to technically vote online, but instead enables them to send a verified document back to their county clerk or registrar indicating for whom they wish to cast their ballot. Since its inception, 3,772 Nevadans have used the system successfully, with 1,273 alone using it during the 2020 general election. In April of 2020, the system was modified so that eligible Nevada voters with disabilities were able to use it as well. 93 individuals with disabilities used the system successfully during the 2020 general election. I have reviewed and discussed Assembly Bill 121 with Assemblywoman Cohen. The Office of the Secretary of State is in support of this bill. Over the next few moments, I will be providing a short demonstration of EASE in order to better help you understand and see this program. The EASE program is only turned on 45 days prior to the start of an election, and it is shut off once the polls close on election day. So the version I'm going to show you is our internal testing version. So this is the overview for the EASE system. As you can see, it identifies the system and provides a little bit of guidance as to how the process works. This first page is an affirmation. It lists, again, required covered voters, as well as a declaration identifying who the voter is so that they have to affirm under penalty of perjury that that information is true and correct. When you get to the voter identification page, you simply fill out your information, enter your email address, and then identify which classification you are. In this case, we've highlighted, I'm a Nevada resident with a disability. This additional information, again, affirms about residency in Nevada. This second box identifies that if an individual is assisting you, they are required by law to explain who they are and provide that information as well. In this case, John Doe, of course, is not registered to vote, so this warning comes up. But since it is the test environment, we're able to proceed past the screen. A pop-up box indicates that the registration deadline is passed. Assemblywoman Cohen referenced this earlier. If it's within 7 days for an overseas citizen or military uniformed overseas individual who is attempting to use this system, it lets you know that the registration deadline has passed if you are trying to register. On this page, again, you simply identify your information again and enter your residential address. The intent here is so that the system can verify the precinct that you are located in and make sure that it presents the correct ballot to you. If the individual is already a registered voter, down at the bottom, this box would actually have a spot in it with their signature so that they can verify it or correct it if need be. After confirming that your information is accurate, it provides a precinct-specific ballot for the individual. As they go through, they simply click on the line to identify the individuals for whom they wish to vote and have the ability to go through, again, the specific ballot to their precinct. When you click Review Selections, the system identifies if you either have an undervote and it prevents you from having an overvote. In this case, we'll simply confirm the selection. Already, we're almost done with the process. At this point, you identify and click to ensure that you understand that you're responsible for returning that absent ballot to your county election office. And it highlights the 3 ways that you can do this, either by mail, by email, or by fax. If you click Return by Mail, it creates your ballot selection packet as an encrypted PDF file that you can then email directly to your county clerk. In this case, I'll select Return by Mail so that you can see what the document looks like. In this case, this entire packet is all that the individual would need to print out, the 6 pages. The individual would sign it, and you will notice that, again, in this case, as I didn't vote for anybody for this example, but as it goes through, it automatically populates with the clerk's address at the bottom of the packet information. This enables, or rather prevents, the individual from having to go online, try to identify the address for their county clerk, and help simplify the process. At this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mr. Joe Gloria, the Registrar of Voters for Clark County, who can explain from his point of view how the process works when he receives these ballots, either in the mail, by fax, or by email.
Good afternoon. For the record, this is Joseph Gloria, Registrar of Voters in Clark County, Nevada. The e-system has worked very well for us here in Clark County ever since it's been put into use by the Secretary of State's office. Once that's received by us, either through the mail, email, or by fax, the majority of them come through email. We verify the information, verify the registration, look for the oath, and match the signature. At that point, we've conferred registry and that the voter is eligible to vote their ballot. The electronic ballot is printed out, at which time we have to duplicate that onto a ballot that can be read by our optical scan system in our tabulation room. Once it's duplicated, it's prepped to send to the counting board, and the counting board sends that to tabulation for it to be read into the system. Through the years since we've used the EASE program, it's been very successful. We haven't had any major issues, and we've only had positive comments related to the use of the system. In the 2020 election, we had 57 qualified disabled voters make use of the system successfully and cast their ballot. And for the 2020 general, we had 86 disabled voters who made use of the system. Based on the fact that there is no cost to the county, and we've had nothing but success in past years of use, I would see this as a positive move to make this available permanently for all disabled voters.
Thank you, Mr. Gloria. And if we could move on to testimony from Ms. Perez.
Dear Chair and Committee, thank you for letting me speak today on AB 121. My name is Santa Perez and I am the Chair of the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, but today I am speaking on my own behalf. As you can see, I cannot use my hands to use the computer. I use Morse code with 2 switches under my chin. This is an effective way for me to communicate and to get many things done independently. During the pandemic, I realized how useful doing many things electronically can be. Paying bills online, to going Christmas shopping was so much easier online. I am a patriotic citizen of Nevada and I love to vote. Having an electronic system would give me the ability to vote without having someone to rely on to take me to a polling place and help me cast my ballot, then taking me home again. This new system will assist me to have a private voting experience and use the tools that are convenient to me. I can also see how this new system will assist people in congregated setting be able to vote without dealing with transportation concerns. They will also be able to take their time to cast their vote and have the support they might need. I hope that you will consider passing AB 121. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. And with that, then if we can hear from Ms. Oh, I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Santa? Okay, thanks. Okay, Miss Perez, Miss Michelle Martinez.
Okay, hi, good afternoon. This is Dora O.L. Martinez, and I'm going to demonstrate what I use. So here we go.
My name is Dora Martinez. I'm a joyful wife, a proud military mom, and an advocate who happens to be blind. I'm here representing the Nevada Legislature Action Coalition. We are people with various disabilities. I'm here today thanking Assemblywoman Cohen, also known as Cohen. She heard concerns, frustrations, and pleas to help get my voice be heard. The effective absentee system for election will be available for non-residents who are disabled. Last year, I was thrilled to inform and help fellow Nevadans who are disabled to vote independently. This was made possible by NCTG support. To others, this civil rights duty is not a big deal, but to most people with disability, especially one who is blind, it's an honorable privilege. Knowing that there's an opportunity to be a part of our democratic system of change and that your vote matters is an incredible experience. About a year ago, the disability community volunteered to check the portal for the non-effective absentee system for election. NDASE was accessible. We tested it with various technologies, i.e., PC with magnifier, braille display laptops, and smartphones, etc. We pointed out a few minor technical issues. During this pandemic, folks who qualified to access the portal were able to vote in two consequential elections from the comfort of their home using their preferred device. It was a relief to PWD who are non-ambulatory, have an underlying health concern, have limited transportation options, and not to mention exposure to COVID-19. I'm here to ask an employee each one of you to pass out 131. We're excited for this rare opportunity available to people with disability and have positive experience using NDASE to vote. Even under post-COVID circumstances, it's vital that Nevadans with disability are given permanent access to this important voting option, and also that all Nevadans with disability can vote independently, securely, and conveniently. As I know that my cohort has been able to last year along with members of the military and other Americans overseas. As a person with a disability, this was a relief due to the following facts: the burden of range and transportation when finding an available driver, finding assistance to polls, or applying for a paper absentee ballot, last of which often requires the assistance of others, is therefore not provided for a person with a visual impairment or other disabilities. I appreciate your consideration of my message and your consideration to benefits of NDASE as a voting option for residents in Nevada with disability. Thank you to Assemblywoman Cohen for being a champion and helping PWD. Word vote. Insertion point between two.
I'll do it again. No, I'm just kidding. I have my daughter here. She will accommodate and read it. Here you go. Introduce your name.
Shirley Cyrus for the record. Okay, I'm gonna start reading now. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Miller and the committee. My name is Dora U.L. Martinez. I'm a joyful wife, a proud military mom, and an advocate who happens to be blind. I'm here representing the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition. We are people with various disabilities. I'm here today thanking Assemblywoman Cohen, aka Awesome Cohen. She heard the concerns, frustrations, and pleads to help getting our voice be heard. The NV effective absentee system for election will be available for Nevada residents who are disabled. Last year, I was thrilled to inform and help fellow Nevadans who are disabled to vote independently. This was made possible by NCDD support. To others, the civil right duty is not a big deal, but to most people with a disability, especially one whom is blind, it's an honorable privilege. Knowing that there's an opportunity to be a part of our democratic system of change and that your vote matters is an incredible experience. About a year ago, the disability community volunteered to check if the portal for the Nevada Effective Absentee System for Election, NVs, was accessible. We tested it with various technologies, i.e. PC with magnifier, braille display, laptops, and smartphones, etc. We pointed out a few minor technical issues. During this pandemic, folks who qualified to access the portal were able to vote in two consequential elections from the comfort of their home using their preferred device. It was a relief to people with disabilities who are not ambulatory, have an underlying health concern, have limited transportation options, and not to mention exposure to COVID-19. I'm here to ask and implore each one of you to pass AB 121. We're excited for this rare opportunity made available to people with a disability and had a positive experience using NVs to vote. Even under post-COVID circumstances, it's vital that Nevadans with a disability are given permanent access to this important voting option by law so that all Nevadans with a disability can vote independently, securely, and conveniently. As I know that my cohort has been able to do last year along with members of the military and other Americans overseas. As a person with a disability, this was a relief due to the following facts: the burden of arranging transportation and/or finding an available driver, finding assistance to the polls, or applying for a paper absentee ballot, the last of which often requires the assistance of others and is therefore not private for a person with a visual impairment or other disabilities. I appreciate your consideration of my message and your consideration of the benefits of NVs as a voting option for residents in Nevada with a disability. Thank you to Assemblywoman Cohen for being a champion in helping with people with disabilities.
Thank you both. And with that, I think we're ready for questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you, because we have a few lining up for questions. Thank you so much for this presentation and the demonstrations of your adaptive technology. It's very helpful. Thank you so much. So our first question will come from Vice Chair Howdeggy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Assemblymember Cohen, for bringing this forward. I'm excited to get to see this implemented, and I'm just curious. Do other states have this too, and how long have they been using it?
Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29. Thank you for the question. I'm actually not aware of that. Mr. Velashan, do you know?
Mark Velashan, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections, for the record. Yes, ma'am. I know other states have something familiar or similar, not nearly as unique as a name, of course. Similar capabilities, similar functionality, but not every state has this. No, that is for sure.
Glad to see we're pioneering something this wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
And then, I'm sorry, Chair, if I may, Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29, and then Mr. Gloria, if you have anything you want to add. No?
Joseph Gloria, Registrar of Voters, Clark County. Only to say that it was a tremendous program that the Secretary of State put in. We were one of the first ever in the nation to put in. They actually won a national award when they first made use of the e-system for overseas voters. So it's well known, and there are more states who should take advantage and take the lead that Nevada set a precedent for.
Is that it, Mr. Gloria?
My apologies, Madam Chair. Yes, that was it. Just a quick comment.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblyman Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen, for the presentation. I also want to thank all of our guests here who testified on this bill today. I just had a question just in terms of definition. And Assemblywoman Cohen, I think you talked a little bit about this in presenting the bill, but I'm wondering if we could get a little more clarity on how the term disabled person would be defined for purposes of this bill, who would qualify. Reading the language of the bill itself, I didn't see that spelled out, and I didn't see anything that suggests reference to another definition somewhere else in statute. So I'm just wondering, based on just a pure reading of the bill, what that definition would be and who would be considered a disabled person for the purpose of this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question, Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29. The definition of disability is in NRS, and it's 426.068, which states the disability means with respect to a person, one, a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more of the major life activities of a person, two, a record of such an impairment, or three, being regarded as having such an impairment. And then if any of the other presenters would like to add anything.
This is Dora Martinez. May I add something?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I don't know if you were nodding your head, Chairwoman Miller.
That's why I remembered I need to say it too. And
yeah,
then
my daughter kicked me. So it's
yes,
okay. I know where she lives. So under the American with Disability Act, it also stated different type of disability, and it's also covered under the Title II. What is it? Oh, my brain just freeze. The Vocational Rehabilitation Act. So it's a federal. Thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Chair and Assemblywoman and Ms. Martinez. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. The next question we have is from Assemblyman Levitt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen, for bringing this. It's important that the disabled are able to vote. This is out of just pure curiosity. What accommodations were made previous to either the prior election, or if this bill goes through, were there? Can you and this may be for Ms. Martinez. How did you vote before? I just was curious what accommodations were made for you prior to this.
Hi, thank you for the question. This is Dora Martinez. going through Chairwoman Miller to the chairman or
You may go
the
directly, Ms. Martinez. You may
So-
go direct.
Okay, thank you. So in prior election, the Secretary of State they had a accessible voting machine that a person who is print impaired or blind or visually impaired, however you want to name it, legally blind, will go to their polling place, and they would have a headset, for an earbud to plug it in like an ATM, and then you can hear all the ballot that's in your precinct, and then you just vote that way. It's a big machine and it's audible. And before that happened, you need to have some, skill set. You got to know what buttons are for. Because one button, they act different function, whether you want to skip or go back, all that type of thing. So there needed to be some training. And we had those training at the Center for Independent Living here in Sparks up north. And the Secretary of State office had, I'm not sure if they were staff or volunteers, but they came and to one of our visually impaired user group out of the Nevada Center for Excellence in Disability up here at the University of Nevada. We had a lot of visually impaired people. I say blind because I am blind, and I don't know if that offends people, but so visually impaired citizens who would come to the meeting, and we would demonstrate how to use the accessible voting machine. So that what took place before, and it would be helpful if they do the early voting phase. So that way they are not standing in line. Because sometimes, and I'm very grateful for the staff and the Secretary of State staff and the volunteers, but sometimes because lack of training, adequate and appropriate training for people, for those staff to help people who are disabled to go and vote effectively and with dignity, they didn't know how to assist. So they offend some people with disability, and some of us teach them on how to help people with disabilities. So it was a learning curve and a lot of, talking back and forth and to help. Because when we go vote as a blind person, like my phone, okay, so like my phone, it's talking. This is same thing to the machine. It's dark. I think it's dark.
Yeah, it is.
And now it's light. So I can vote and put the audible machine. You can make the screen dark. So anybody can walk behind you or whatever they want, be able to see whom are you voting for, or hear, because you have the headset. And before, they used to put the machine in a corner or had like a wall or a curtain, so you have your private area to do that. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. You didn't see, but I was nodding along with what you were saying, and I didn't want to interrupt you by saying yes, yes, yes. I appreciate you walking us through that. And thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, Registrar of Voters, Clark County, if you don't mind, I do have a short comment just to follow up on that.
Please, yes.
I would say that the most important factor here that we need to keep in mind is through the EASE program, they can do it through the comfort of their home, in their living room or in their computer room. The main difference here is that they have to find transportation to get out to the polls. And I believe in Ms. Martinez's testimony, she makes a good point in that oftentimes when they do it for the first time, there's a training piece there. And although we do outreach and try to get out into the community and give the disabled folks an opportunity to train on that, it's much easier for them to do that at home. So that's a really important aspect of what this will do for those voters. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Gloria. Our next question comes from Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen, for this bill, because we certainly want every eligible voter in Nevada to be able to vote as easily as possible. I just have a quick question. What safeguards are currently in place to protect these electronic systems from hacking? And then I also have a little follow-up if I may.
Mr. Gloria or Mr. Volashin, if you could respond to that.
Yes, ma'am. I have some answers. Mark Volashin, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections, for the record. Electronic safeguards as it relates to ease. First and foremost, as you saw in the program, when you get to the end of it, you have the 3 methods of delivery. If it is an electronic mail or an email rather that you're going to send, I didn't show this part of it, but it actually turns your ballot into an encrypted PDF. The only people that have the passwords to that PDF are actually the clerks and registrars, so that when you email it directly to the clerk's office, again, it's a very, very limited number of personnel that have the ability to even open it in the first place. And this is something the secrecy is maintained very strictly. In regards to fax, again, it's a direct number to the clerk's office as well. And I know that's something that Mr. Gloria would like to be able to comment on as well. So it's not something that hangs out on the fax machine for days at a time. These applications, when they go through, are very quick and efficient to make sure that, again, the information is transmitted to the clerks and it's able to be transcribed onto the ballot in a very safe and secure manner. That's all I have, though, otherwise. Mr. Gloria, do you have any comments to add?
Thank you, Mark. Yes, Registrar of Voters, Joe Gloria, he hit right on it. There's encryption involved with that electronic ballot that's coming over. And only the staff in the election departments have the ability to decrypt that so that we can take a look at it. And on the fax machines that we provide, the phone number to the fax machine that we receive those ballots on is in a secured room behind card key access and alarm access and a very limited access area where only election permanent staff are receiving those ballots and getting them processed to be read into the system.
That's really good to know. Thank you so much. And kind of along those lines, I was just wondering, it seems like it would be possible to create a digital signature for someone else. So is it? How do you verify that the person who submitted the ballot using only a digital signature is the actual voter? Maybe.
Registrar of Voters, Clark County, Joe Gloria, much in the same way, Assemblyman Dickman, that we do with any mail ballot that comes in, that signature is verified against what we have in the database to be sure that there's a match, and there's the oath as well that comes in that they have to sign with every ballot that comes in before it's processed to be tabulated.
So they send in an actual signature that you have on file as opposed to just a digital?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. I have a question, and this may be more for the bill sponsor, for Assemblywoman Cohen. My question would be, has there been consideration, or I don't necessarily see it, but for some type of informative piece in terms of, we have individuals that are in hospitals, rehab centers, long-term care centers, facilities. So is there any type of informational piece to let these facilities know that this is available for people as well?
Thank you, Leslie Cohen, Assembly District 29. Excuse me. So I know this isn't a money committee, but there is a small fiscal with the bill, and my understanding from the Secretary of State's office is the fiscal is related, excuse me, Carson City allergies. That fiscal is related to getting the word out and making sure that people know this is available to them. So I don't know if Mr. Volashin wants to add anything to that.
Yes, ma'am. Mark Volashin, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections, for the record. The Assemblywoman is exactly right. The intent is that while there would be no modification requirements to the system, of course, we make sure it is ADA compliant already. If this bill were to pass, the fiscal impact to the agency would be one of outreach to make sure that the individuals who are eligible to use this are able to hear about it and find out so they can take advantage of it in the next election.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question comes from Assemblyman Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just actually wanted to make a brief comment that one of the things I like about this bill, at least in terms of its intent, is that it takes what I think is one of the real strengths of our election system, which is, the existence of that, effective and working process for voting by absentee ballot. It actually, enhances and expands that with, the safeguards that come with that. So I just wanted to note that and thank you.
Thank you for that, Assemblyman. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the question I was going to ask has been asked, but I did want to make a comment to the sponsor of the bill and the presenters. I, as I'm sure all of my colleagues on this committee, have walked neighborhoods, knocked doors, and heard stories from various constituents of the difficulty of getting to the polls if they were different abilities and not able to drive themselves to the polls. So I truly, truly appreciate Assemblywoman Cohen for bringing this bill. It gives a sense of independence to so many of the constituents in my district so that they don't have to rely on someone else to help them exercise their right to vote. And then to the Secretary of State's office and to Mr. Gloria, my question was about the accountability and the integrity of the security of the system. And I so appreciate you for answering that question that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. With that, I don't see any additional questions at the time. So we can move into accepting testimony in support of AB 121. So broadcasting, if you could, anyone that's in the queue to testify in support. And again, those providing testimony, we ask that you keep it as close to 2 minutes as possible. We're just waiting a few extra moments because we may have people dialing in with adaptive technology, and we want to make sure that we give enough time for everyone.
Yes, Madam Chair, if you can please stand by while broadcast pulls up the testimony in support. Thank you.
Certainly.
Chair, I'm going to queue up the first caller. Are you ready?
Yes, we are.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if there's a problem with my audio there. I will try again.
Okay, we are ready.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 362. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Katie Robbins, KATIE ROBBINS, and I represent Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada. PPNV is supportive of AB 121 because we should make participating in elections easier and more accessible to those who may not otherwise be able to participate. AB 121 will make voting easier and more secure for disabled Nevadans by tapping into a system already in use for military voters and Nevadans living overseas. We believe that increased participation in elections is always a good thing, and AB 121 will help to achieve that goal. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 048. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Stephen Cohen for the record. Stephen with a V. Cohen as in the Assemblywoman and presenter, no known relation. Ditto. as I've been sitting waiting, I've been trying not to devour a box of Jack's popcorn, which showed up as a surprise in the mail today. People with disabilities are people first. Nothing about us without us, and all means all. That, Madam Chair, thank you, and I yield.
Caller with the last three digits, 155. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christy Cabrera, CHRISTI-CABRERA. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Director for the Nevada Conservation League. NCL envisions a future where all Nevadans can thrive because they have access to a healthy climate, clean air, clean water, and outdoor spaces, as well as a safe, healthy, and sustainable community. We understand that this vision isn't possible without a fair and inclusive democracy in which all voters can participate. For us, passing strong laws to protect our environment depends upon open and fair elections because we believe that the long-term health of our planet is linked with the health of our democracy. For many voters with disabilities, absentee voting has been the safest and most accessible way to cast a ballot. This bill will make voting more accessible to all Nevadans by allowing voters with disabilities to use NVEs. Improving voting rights and access is fundamental to making our elections more responsive to Nevadans living with disabilities. We urge the committee's support on AB 121. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 838. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Janine Moores, JeaninneMoores. Hello, my name is Janine Moores, and I'm speaking to you today to share how important the NVE's online voting system has been to me, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic as a Nevada resident with a disability. I'm totally blind, and I have been voting completely independently since 2004 using audio ballot capability included in the electronic voting machines at my voting precinct, and I have done so with great pride and joy. This past year, access to NVEs for Nevada residents with disabilities due to the pandemic has allowed me to vote in 2 consequential elections from home using my iPhone and my refreshable Braille display. 2 pieces of technology I use daily without having to worry about transportation to a reduced number of polling places, not to mention possible exposure to COVID-19. I was able to successfully fill out and submit my ballot without any sighted assistance and with relatively few technical issues, and was again proud and excited to do so. Having had such a positive experience using NVEs to vote, I feel that even under post-COVID circumstances, it is vital that Nevadans with disabilities be given permanent access to this important voting option by law so that all Nevadans with disabilities can vote independently, securely, and conveniently, as I have been able to do this past year, along with members of the military and other Americans overseas, without having to find assistance, worry about transportation to the polls, or apply for a paper absentee ballot, the last of which often requires the assistance of others and is therefore not private for a person with a visual impairment or other disabilities. I'd like to thank Assemblywoman Leslie Cohen for sponsoring AB 121, which, if passed, will make access to the NVE's online voting system for Nevada residents with disabilities a permanent voting option, and I urge the Nevada Legislature to pass AB 121. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 316. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
This is Ted Nagel, Tednagel. I have been living in Nevada for over 25 years. I am a quadriplegic, and I am very much in support of this bill because not just myself, but many other people that I know have a hard time getting to polling places. And this will open the opportunity for more citizens to be more citizen-like. There are a couple suggestions I have in considering it. Number one, there's people that are maybe not considered disabled, but are homebound for one reason or another that this bill could include and could be assisted by someone that would go out. I think that we could put together mobile hotspots for people who live in areas or can't afford internet connection or just isn't tech savvy, that people, teams, as I would recommend one from each party, to go out and assist those type of people to present their ballot and using the system to place their vote. Also, I wanted to know if a printed copy is given when you send your ballot in by email. Do you also get a printed copy that you can keep for your own records to be able to guarantee that we can what's the word? That if there's any question that we can prove that we voted in that way. And also the digital signature for people who are not doing it the first time by digital. Like myself, I sign my name, but I do not have a digital signature per se. And I wanted to find out how those people signatures would be verified. They said they'd be verified from past ballots, but if this is the first time they're doing it electronically, will the person be able to get an electronic signature for the first time? And also, I'd like to thank you, Dora, for your comments. And I am a co-member of the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition, helping to progress the disabled population. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 656. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, for the record, Will Pregman, Will, P as in Peter, Regman. I'm speaking representing Battleborn Progress. We rise in support of AB 121. At a time when coordinated attacks on the right to vote are occurring in states around the country, Nevada has made incredible strides the past few years to secure access to voting for every eligible voter. AB 121 is one measure to further that goal for voters with disabilities. The UO-CAVA ballots through NVEs will help voters with disabilities for whom regular absentee ballots are not accessible to cast their vote. Further, having technology available to have audio and visual assistance available for in-person voting will help ensure that the right to vote remains protected. Our democracy is stronger when everyone who is eligible to vote has a means to participate. AB 121 extends that to Nevadans with disabilities and makes the process of expressing their voice and their vote a simpler one. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen, for bringing forward this bill. Thank you to the state and county election officials who testified for working on this to increase access, and thank you to the committee for hearing this bill. We recommend that you consider passing AB 121. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 518. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
For the record, Alfredo Calderon, ALFREDO CALDERON. Good afternoon, Chair Miller and committee members. I'm an organizer with Mi Familia Vota Nevada. We are proud members of Let Nevada Vote Coalition. Mi Familia Vota in support.
Broadcasting, did we lose them?
I am not sure what happened there. If they pop back on, I will put them back in the queue. Let me double check and make sure they didn't get dropped down in the menu here. Oh, hold on. Let me just try again. They're right here. Caller with the last three digits, 518. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. For the record, Alfredo Calderon, Alfredo Calderon. Good afternoon, Chair Miller, committee members. I'm an organizer with Mi Familia Vota Nevada. We are proud members of Let Nevadians Vote Coalition. Mi Familia Vota is in support of AB 121. We thank Assemblywoman Leslie Cohen for sponsoring this important piece of legislation. All citizens with the right to vote have a right to proper condemnations and should be extended the ability to utilize Nevada's e-system and register to vote and request and cast a UOCA ballot, as it provides voters as much time as they need to vote in advance of an election, as well as the opportunity to vote from the comfort of their home, and allows voters with physical disabilities to avoid stressful process of trying to navigate a complex voting process. Our vote is our voice, and Nevada must put options in place that allows voters with disabilities to have a say in every election. We need to ensure we are protecting people's right to vote. This bill would protect the right to vote of people with disabilities. We ask this committee to support AB 121. Thank you so much for listening.
Caller with the last three digits, 130. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christine Saunders. That's CHRISTINESAUNDERS, and I'm the Policy Director with the Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada, here in support of AB 21. At Plan, we believe our democracy is most vibrant when more people are participating. AB 121 is an important piece of legislation to ensure that Nevada voters with disabilities are always able to have their voices heard at the ballot box. We urge your support. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 064. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits, 064. Please press *6 to unmute.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Swanson, CYNTHIA-SWANSON. I am a new resident to Southern Nevada, Clark County, and I am blind, but so many of our blind colleagues have spoken in favor of this that I'm going to move on to another disability. I work for advocacy cross-categorically. My husband and I have 3 sons. Our middle son has Down syndrome, and he has been a dedicated voter since he turned 18 in the great state of Illinois, and he would like to continue to vote. This opportunity with AB 121 will give him that opportunity without fear or anxiety of standing in line, being worried about cross-contamination. I applaud the members of this committee for doing this work, and I thank you so much for your good service.
Caller with the last three digits, 956. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair. For the record, this is Liz Davenport, LIZDAVENPORT, the legal intern with the ACLU of Nevada, in support of AB 121. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen, for bringing this legislation. We echo the sentiments previously expressed by all of our partners in support. This process of voting has already proven to be easy to implement and has allowed people with disabilities easy access to vote. For many people with a disability, the process of physically filling out a ballot and appearing at a polling place is extremely difficult. Many times, this requires formidable transportation needs, such as requiring specialized equipment in order to get to the polling place. This is then followed by difficulty navigating the polling place itself, which often involves challenging accessibility concerns. AB 121, by providing persons with a disability the ability to use the already existing absentee NVEs system, would alleviate the above significant difficulties experienced in voting and provide greater access to voting for all Nevadans. We support this bill. Thank you, and that concludes my testimony.
For those of you that just joined the call, please press *6 to testify in support on AB 121 to take your place in the queue. Chair, this is Michael from Broadcast. We appear to have no more callers in support of AB 121.
Okay, thank you for that. And we open up the queue for anyone in opposition.
To testify in opposition on AB 121, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 210, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits, 201, please press *6 to unmute.
Hi, good evening. I'm actually calling in support of the bill. I was in the queue and it kicked me out for some reason.
Please proceed.
Okay. Good evening, my Chairwoman Miller and to the committee. For the record, my name is Emily Prasad Zamora, EMILY-PERSAUD-ZAMORA, and I am the Executive Director of Silver State Voices, and calling on behalf of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition, a coalition of 21 national and local organizations dedicated to ensuring fair and equitable elections for all Nevadans. And so I am calling in support of AB 121 because every single Nevadan should have the opportunity to decide what is the safest and most accessible manner to cast their ballot, whether that's in person, by mail, or with a UCAVIT ballot. Under AB 121, voters with disabilities may register to vote as well as request and receive a UCAVIT ballot under Nevada ESA system that has been used by members of the armed services and Nevadans residing overseas since 1986. The NVE system is a system based on proven and secure technology. This bill would extend a decades-long program to a voting bloc that would greatly benefit from it. By providing voters with disabilities access to this tool, this bill will ensure that this body is taking the proper steps to ensure that we are making voting more accessible for all Nevada voters. It's important to acknowledge that components of vote by mail may not necessarily be accessible for all voters with disabilities. Some folks with this community experience barriers when attempting to independently handle, read, or mark their mail ballot. The UCAVIT ballot, however, would eliminate those accessibility issues should they decide to use it. For example, someone who is quadriplegic and has no movement from the neck down can control a computer cursor either with a stick and puff device and assistive technology that resembles a straw, or with their eye movement. The onset of the technology has made daily functions more accessible, and voting should be one of those. There goes a saying that persons with disabilities have to fight for rights and privileges that able-bodied folks do not. Voting is not a privilege, it's a right for all U.S. citizens. This includes the 374,000 Nevadans living with disabilities. We urge this body to support AB 121 and thank Assemblywoman Cohen for sponsoring this bill.
And we will go back to anyone in testifying in opposition. It's just that we understand sometimes there's little glitches as we're calling in, so we want to be considerate of that, but we will return to opposition.
To testify in opposition on Bill AB 121, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 842, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, my name is David Gibbs, D-A-V-I-D, G-I-B-B-S. Having voted overseas using an email system back in 2009, I think it's a great way to do it, and I'm not opposed to the concept of the bill, and I actually am a lot more at ease having seen the demonstration to make sure that we're verifying that the individuals are who they are. I raised the same question that Assemblywoman Dickman made regarding making sure that we're good on the digital signature. And I think my concerns lie for after this process has been received at the voting office, not necessarily the process itself. So I think my questions in opposition have been answered, and I thank the committee and I thank the folks who presented for putting my mind much more at ease on this legislation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and we'll keep that testimony in opposition.
Do we testify in opposition?
Sorry.
That's okay. I didn't mean to interrupt. We have a couple of new callers. I'm going to do the prompt one more time to see if we have any more in opposition. To testify in opposition on Bill AB 121, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair Miller, we have no more callers in opposition at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do we have one waiting to testify in neutral?
To testify neutrally on AB 121, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the line is open and working. However, we have no callers in neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I would just again really like to thank Ms. Martinez, Ms. Perez for joining us today and sharing your experiences with us and co-presenting this bill. Also, of course, Mr. Voloshin and Mr. for always the great input that you have with our voting and election systems. And with that, I will close the hearing on AB 121. Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen, for bringing forth this legislation. Next, we will move to the next agenda item, which is public comment. So broadcasting again, if we have anyone ready for public comment. And again, we just ask while people are calling in for public comment that remember that it should be pertaining to issues that are under the purview of this committee, and you will have 2 minutes per person for public comment.
To make public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. In order to make public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public comment line is open and working. However, we have no callers at this time.
And we just want to pause for a moment to make sure that we're providing enough time for anyone that may be calling in just now. Do we seem to have anyone attempting to log in or call in?
Chair, we have no more callers at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, not seeing anyone in line for public comment, our next meeting will be Tuesday, March 16th at 4 o'clock. And with that, this concludes our meeting and I adjourn this meeting.